All right. I got people in the waiting room, admit, and then we'll go ahead and begin. All right, so waiting for it to get on the YouTube. I don't want to officially start with, okay, cool. So some of you guys know, some of you might not. It all depends on how present you are in the chat, which leads me to kind of where this is going, which is as much as we love the chat, and some chats will still stay present. Some chats will still be open, smaller chats, smaller team chats, my personally enrolled frontline chat, my leader chat, things like that will stay open. But the Thrive Army one as a whole will be, I don't even want to say like deleted, but it will be deleted, but it's transitioning to a group. And why is it transitioning to a group? Because it's easier to search information in a group. And we're still able to connect with one another because a lot of you guys are still part of smaller team chats where you can really get to know your team and even other teams. My group is going to be, or my group, I'm saying like as the 200K, I'm going to use my group or our group as a 200K, very different than a lot of other groups. So if you are part of, you know, other groups like Rank Risers or Start the, or whatever the case might be, we're going to use ours a little bit different. So it is going to be a place to connect, to learn, to share resources, to shout out, to do things like that. But we will have kind of posts that go out that have little like daily challenges for people. I know that when Lindsay Coggins talked a little bit on one of the Zooms or stuff that we got in, they talk about how they do like little daily challenges. I know M. Henning does it too for her team. They do like little daily tasks or challenges to really help people find some direction in their business, right? Whether it's, oh, go live about this topic today, or, you know, and these aren't things that you guys have to do. These are just going to be little suggestions or challenges to help you grow your business. Because sometimes people have voiced that it's almost like they know what to do, but there's so much you could be doing that it feels like you're lost, right? So it's like, I know I could go live and I know I could post and I know I could do this, but it's so much easier when someone just says, post about this, go live about this, right? And we're never going to tell you like what to do, like a host to post or like copy and paste, but we may give you like prompts like, oh, go live about your favorite childhood memory or something like that. Every time we do little things like that, it gets very positive feedback. People say they love it. So we'll try to implement something very similar to that, as well as a place where we can kind of have the day's shout outs and the day's kind of like wins, where we can kind of connect and just kind of shout out ourselves for things that we did or ways that we grew or new things that we discovered that day. It'll have daily encouragement, things like that. So it'll be a little bit different. There probably will be a spot or a post where we can shout people out and you will like comment the shout outs. And I say that because I don't want the page, I want the page to be used in a very organized manner. So when people go there, they're not so overwhelmed that they're like, whoa, too much. And they just kind of check out. So I want it to be really organized. But I still want it to be very communicative and very community driven and things like that. So there's that piece. So the chat will be closing and transitioning over to the group. So please, please, please make sure you are in the group, that your downline is in the group. I know inevitably I will still get messages. Why was I removed from Thrive Army? Because there's no way to delete the chat. I literally have to go in and remove all like 300 people. And it will say, Courtney has removed you from the chat. They're going to be like, so try to make sure that your people know to the best of their ability, inviting them. This is also a way that we can weed out, or I can weed out anyway, some of the people who are no longer active that are currently in the chat. They're not going to transition with us to the group. And when I mean inactive, it means I don't even think they're promoting. So there's that piece. When you go in there, please look at the guides. If you're not new, the guides may not serve any purpose for you, but even as a veteran promoter, you're going to want to acquaint yourself with the guides because you may want to know where they are to help your new people and to point it out. Yeah, you can do that, Caitlin. If you once you add yourself to the group, you can remove yourself from the chat. It's using your noggin right there. I like it. Because like I said, it's up and running now. So by Friday, like Friday will be the day that I'm like deleting people. So If you want to go ahead, you're not going to miss out on anything. I know some people are going to want to cling on to the last millisecond because it's change, and change is scary. I totally get it. But nothing will probably be going down in there. And anything that you need, you can get in your smaller chats, or you can get in the group. So there's that. But acquaint yourself with the guides. And also another really cool feature is we have a mentorship tab. A lot of our leaders have filled out mentorship profiles where it's almost kind of like a dating profile, but for a mentor or for a leader or for someone with a specific skill set. And why is that important? Because I think a lot of us can connect with different like-minded people. That person may not necessarily be the person who enrolled you, or maybe the person who enrolled you is no longer present. Or maybe you had a falling out with the person who, whatever it is, right? Maybe you love the person who enrolled you, but you guys just are very different. And you need help in some other way. Like, you're like, my leader is great with this, but man, I need help brainstorming promos, and that's just not their strength. So under the mentorship piece, it has a little bit about what this person is really passionate about and good at, has their working genius, their color personality. And you have the ability to partner up with them and kind of have a chat so that you can, and this chat is not to be used like, hey, Sue Ellen, how many milligrams of caffeine is in Activate? Okay, that's not what it's for. What it's for is to just every once in a while, why you connected with Sue Ellen is because, oh, Sue Ellen is really good at brainstorming promos, and Double Triple just came out. And normally I don't kill this promo, but she does. So I'm going to reach out to her and say, hey, Sue Ellen, what kind of promo are you running? How are you talking to your customers about this Double Triple? How are you pushing it? And so I think that that's what it's to be used for. So go in there when you go in and just kind of, oh, good, Florence. When you go in there, just kind of look around. It is not mandatory. You do not have to connect with somebody right away. You can just wait. And when you feel like you need something, go to the mentorship tab and be like, does anybody have that kind of profile that can fit what I'm looking for? So there's that. There was something else. Oh, we have two really new exciting things happening as well. We are adding an Instagram and a Pinterest page, but it's very much geared towards the lifestyle, healthy lifestyle, cars, getaway, kind of everything about the Thrive lifestyle. I want to thank Mandy and Caitlin for heading that up. They're Instagram and Pinterest pros. And so why Pinterest? Because Pinterest is a search engine. So we will be tapping into a whole new market of traffic. And what you're able to do, why it helps us be on Instagram and Pinterest, is because we can share those things. They're pre-made. We don't have to create them. We don't have to come up with the content. We just share it to our page, and it can help us create leads. So it'll almost very much be like the Facebook group that Haley and Gabby head up, right? The Change Your Life Now, the lifestyle. Very much similar to that will be the content that's over on Instagram. And so the cool thing is when it's posted or shared, you can just share it to your story, and instantly it adds value to your audience, right? It shows people like certain kinds of workouts. It gives them tips on fitness or wellness or skincare or whatever the case might be. So you're able to share that value with your audience without having to come up with it yourself. It saves time. It's great. Same with Pinterest, when you repin it or when you share it, or when you can even share a pin on Facebook. Again, it adds value to your audience. So we're going to be doing that. And waiting room. And then we are also still doing the one-to-one coaching calls. I am, and a few of the other leaders are. And so I kind of wanted to also touch base around what those one-to-ones should really be looking like. I feel, and I'm getting this, I just read, I know, shock, right? I just read this book the other day. I actually read it in like 3 hours. You can tell I got absolutely no value from it. No takeaways. Don't get it. It's a horrible book. Just kidding. I just couldn't put enough sticky notes on it, clearly. And in one of these areas, he talks about guidelines for mentoring relationships. And when I was reading through some of these, it really is. I don't know how many of you in your regular jobs have ever had a performance review. Or if you've had good bosses or good managers, then you made like goals at those performance reviews. And then the next time you met, you kind of went over them. And so he kind of gives an outline here for, obviously we don't do performance reviews, but we do mentoring. And he just says, you know, what's the difference between a manager and a mentor? Well, number one, a mentor you choose, and a manager essentially kind of benefits. It's in their benefit to make sure that you get what you need. Whereas with mentorship, it's in your benefit to seek out a mentor. Mentoring is for your benefit. And so a lot of times I think people come to mentorship, one-to-ones, chats, however you want to use it, and they think, give me all your knowledge. You kind of come, you kind of come unprepared and you're like, help, you know, which I totally get. But in here, he kind of gives an outline for how to have, you know, how to almost add value to the mentor relationship so that they can guide you and help you a lot better. And you can actually get more of your questions answered. And so he kind of gives a little bit of an outline for that. And number one is he says, you know, to ask the right questions. So going in with a plan or knowing what you need help with, not necessarily the exact thing, right? But if you just go, I don't know what's wrong, I'm not growing. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. They're not gonna be able to tell you what you're doing wrong because they don't watch your day-to-day life. But it's essentially like, I'm frustrated because I'm not able to grow. My husband decides it's now a good time for a 4-wheel ride. He just kind of, you just kind of say to yourself, you know, I realize that I might not be that great at closing sales, right? That's a specific task. Oh, you can't hear him? Oh, good. Because he just came whipping around the corner, all engine roaring. So coming in with specific questions, right? When you're going, I think too, this is why a lot of the times when I do a one-to-one, they're scheduled for a half hour, but they usually end up going 45 minutes to an hour, is because they come in and it's very broad. It's, I'm frustrated, I need help. So then we spend a lot of time trying to figure out what it is you need help with. Bye, Rachel. Happy birthday. Have a good time with cake. Have a piece for me. So I think it's being prepared. You know, if you're like, oh crap, I have a one-to-one, like then maybe you're not coming into that space with the preparedness and the mindset to grow from that one-to-one. So coming in with the right questions, you know, hey, I feel like I need help closing sales. Do you have any specific advice around how you close sales or how I could get better at closing sales? Or it could be role play, maybe closing a sale so I can figure out, you know, maybe where I'm kind of falling short. Yeah, Jamie, there was the same thing like an evaluation, you know, I went through some of those as well. Number 2 is clarifying your level of expectations. So it's always to improve, but making sure that you're clear what you expect out of the one-to-one and your mentor is clear out of what you expect from the one-to-one, right? Because the last thing you want to do is sit on there for 45 minutes going around in circles because you didn't come prepared with questions. And then it's like you leave and you're like, not valuable. We didn't talk about anything really that was helpful, you know? So kind of coming in with a certain level of expectation. Sorry, more people to admit. Okay. And then it says, accept a subordinate learning position, meaning you're going in there, and I don't think a lot of you guys struggle with this, but it's going in with the idea of learning, being available for feedback. I think this kind of comes into play with being available for feedback and not looking at the feedback as personal attacks. No one's attacking your character, right? It's not saying, you know, you're lazy. If they're saying, I feel like maybe you could be doing more of this. Some people may go in with an inflexible mindset that makes them feel like their character is being attacked and being called, you know, lazy and this, that, and the other, right? Understand that when you go into mentorship, part of the growing process is accepting constructive criticism. And that lends into mentors obviously not being like, you suck at this, you should do this better. Like, you know, like, I don't think any of our mentors necessarily do that, but kind of accepting that when you go in, you may hear ways that you need to do things differently, or maybe suggestions on ways to do things differently, and not take it as a, I can't do anything right. It's like, I can't win kind of mentality. Next is respect the mentor, but don't idolize them. Because they are human, just like you. They make mistakes just like you. They may give you advice and it might not go well, right? So it's kind of understanding and delineating the difference between expecting them to have all the answers, like they are the end all be all omniscient being, like, oh, because they've gotten where they've gotten, or they know what they know, all the answers are correct. They may tell you something and it may totally flop and may not be that great. And you will want to have a tendency to potentially blame them and be like, you told me. So it's like having a healthy boundary and understanding and respect that, you know, respecting your mentor, but not idolizing them, not being like, they're going to have all the answers. Oh my gosh. Because I can definitely tell you, we don't. We try our best, but we don't. And then two, here's the one thing I see a lot of too when I do one-to-ones is, if I have more than one-to-one with the same person, sometimes I would say at least half the time, we're talking about the same thing we talked about the week before and the week before and the week before. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. However, it's because of this one. They don't immediately put into effect what they learn. They want to ask and get answers, but they don't necessarily create a plan of action and then take that action. It's a lot of, I know we talked about it last week, but I really just haven't had the time, or I don't know, it got away from me, or I'm still so nervous. It is when you go with the expectation of figuring out and problem solving something. And then after that is you get that solution, or that, you know, it reminds me of the scientific method, right? It's like you're going to have to retest and test, but you get that one plan and then you have to take action. Because the next one-to-one you do should be reviewing how that solution worked and what may or may not need to be tweaked. A one-to-one isn't necessarily beneficial when you're regurgitating the same information, the same problem, and the same just situation over and over, okay? So putting into effect what you learn. And then just kind of understand, this one's more for the mentor, it's just rewarding that action. When there is action taken on the things that you talk about, what's the reward, what's the outcome. And so I think it's just kind of making really good use of one-to-one time, because we want to do them. If you decide to start doing this with your team, you're going to want to do them too. But what's going to make you want to not do them really quick is when people don't take the time seriously and they look at it and go, oh, I get to talk to Jamie for 30 minutes. Jamie's so cool. I just love chatting with her. That's not what a one-to-one is for. Unless, again, you specifically go into that one-to-one saying, hey, I feel like I just need to use this 30 minutes to get stuff off my chest because it's creating a toxic mindset for me. Do you mind if I use that space? Most of the time, they're like, no, of course, that's totally fine. But it's not a place where you can be like, I really love Jamie. I think she's such a cool person. I want to go hang out with her for 30 minutes because that makes me feel really special. Right? That's not what they're used for. Same thing where it's like, I'm just feeling really sad and I need to talk to somebody on a one-to-one. Again, if that's something you need to do, maybe reach out to a person you connect with and ask first if they have the space available to just, let you vent and kind of let you get some stuff off your chest. But that's going to make people not want to do one-to-ones really quick, is when the time is not utilized wisely and people feel like they're not useful, right? They feel like people aren't using them to change. People aren't using them to solve problems. People aren't using them to grow. It just feels like I'm taking 6 hours out of my day, Mondays and Wednesdays, to bullshit with people. Just say like, hey, how are you? How's the kid? Things like that. Which again, if you're doing that every once in a blue moon, totally fine. But it's one of those things where when you start doing them with your team, you're going to be like, all right, if I'm going to take the time out and you're going to schedule them, we're going to kind of make sure that we use those 30 minutes or however long you schedule your stuff for, making sure that they're used wisely so that we can help you guys as best as possible. I think my biggest thing for that is just please implement some of the strategies you both come up with. And don't be afraid to be just as vocal in the one-to-one as your mentor. It shouldn't just be like your mentor talking at you, right? We're not there to like solve all the issues and be like, here's exactly what you should do. Blah, 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 blah. Go forth and prosper. Like, it's a dialogue. It's something that you should be just as involved in with problem solving, because you know your life best, you know your work ethic, you know your time, you know your availability, you know your personality, all of that. So making it, like I said, more of that dialogue. I think that was pretty much it. It was just talking about the transition from the chat to the group, talking about the Pinterest and the Instagram, and then talking about mentorship and one-to-ones moving forward, because I'm sure as we transition from the chat to the group, we will go through a growing period where we feel like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm not talking to anybody. I feel like I'm so isolated. We're so used to like talking to everybody like all day long. And again, you have your smaller chats for that, but it will be a growing period. And I have a feeling like our one-to-ones will start getting like way booked up again because people will start to feel like they're not connected anymore. So before I do a one-to-one and I write down questions and what I need to talk about. Yes, Tammy. So just coming prepared. So coming prepared for your one-to-one. What do you want out of it? What's your goal? How are you looking to grow that week or that bi-weekly, however often you're meeting? Going with a mission and a purpose, right? You just don't want to go in and be like, I don't know what I need. I don't know when I need it. And I don't know what it's going to do for me, but whatever that is, can you just make it happen? You know, I feel like those ones aren't necessarily as productive, and it takes us about 3 to 4 one-to-ones to get to the real root of what we should have just gotten to in the first meeting. And also just being mindful of time. So does anybody have any questions? Like I said, I know that it's going to be a weird transition from the chat to the group. I'm really also hoping that people will utilize the group to be resourceful and find answers that they're looking for. We have so many resources at our fingertips on this team that there's no reason why you can't look for the answer before you ask somebody. Because don't forget, it's still, you're doing it to save time. You're doing it to save your time, but it's costing somebody else time. So just being mindful of that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying, just be mindful, right? Just like if it's not costing you money, it's costing somebody money, you know? Same thing with that time concept. So if you're like, oh, you know, what's the caffeine content? We have so many things. Jamie's right, time is money. So we have so many resources. So, you know, you could ask somebody in the chat. Doesn't mean, oh, the chat's gone. Who do I ask? Well, I'm just going to reach out to Bree personally in her private message and be like, Bree, what's the answer to this question? Right? It means, no, you go look in the Facebook group, look in the Trello, look in the YouTube, look in the frequently asked questions links page. We have, like I said, we have so many resources. And then if absolutely you cannot find it, please reach out to one of us. I also think this serves a twofold purpose. One, we don't want to burn out one another, asking, again, kind of doing that exchange for time. Like, hey, I don't want to take the time to look for this, but can you take the time to answer me? You know, I don't want to burn people out like that. And I also want you to learn to be resourceful and utilize the resources that we have, because I see a lot of the times on the team, we have so many resources, and because people aren't plugged in, because they're so used to getting spoon-fed information by people in the chats or one-to-ones or whatever, that they almost don't even know a resource exists. I saw people yesterday and the day before just now subscribe to the team text bot that we have. And that's been around for like 4 months. And that's what gives people reminders and automatic text reminders for Zooms and trainings and auto ships and all that stuff. So make sure that you just kind of use the resources that we have. Caitlin, yes. And then you'll be able to duplicate how and when to use the resources for your own team. Because yes, you may be the person who needs to know the answer right now, but eventually that will be somebody else, and you will not have the time to do that with 25, 35, 45 people, you know, because I think, again, it's easy, right? It may be easy for, I'm just going to pick on Emily to ask a question because it's one person and she's asking it to me, but maybe what Emily doesn't see is that Mikkel and Tammy and Whitney and Brooke and Emily and Elaine and Brittany and are all asking me the same thing. So it's you're asking one person, but I may have 20 people asking me, right? So it's just a little different. And I don't want you to be that person either. It's not necessarily for my benefit. It's like for everybody. I don't want Megan to have a growing team and then everybody blow Megan up all day long asking questions to the point where she just like wants to throw this against the wall. She's just like, I'm all done with this, right? So the earlier we can create more independent, resourceful people and teams, the easier your job will be, the less burnout you'll experience, and the more joy and fulfillment you will still have with the team and the business, because that's the quickest way to lose that joy and fulfillment is when you start to like want to pull your hair out because you're either repeating yourself like a broken record, or you have people that just don't value your time. And then you're having to, we all know that it's the same in a 9 to 5. I'm sure Toby gets it, right? Like you have people that don't want to do their job. You have people that come in late, so you have to come in early. You have people that want to leave early, so you have to stay late. And then you end up kind of picking up the slack in all those areas, right? So it's like, it works the same here. If you're not taking the time, if you're not making the effort, somebody's making the effort and someone's making the time. And then if that ratio becomes too big, that's when a lot of people will kind of build resentment in teams unintentionally. Because if you're not kind of carrying your own weight, the team is having to bear theirs plus yours. And it's the quickest way to get people to be like, dude, I'm out. Like, I didn't leave one job that was crap for another job that basically is doing the same thing, only in different ways. So just trying, and we have to start that early, right? So that's the one thing I will do is I will kind of handhold in the first like 14 days. And then after that, I'll say, hey, you know what? Let me show you where to find that. So it's not like I'm just pointing going, go, no, I don't know the answer. Go look for it. Don't do that. Don't just say, go look for it. You can be like, you know what? I think we actually might have that resource in the YouTube channel. Do you have the YouTube link? Or, hey, you know what? I think that's actually probably something we put in the Trello board. Do you have the Trello board on your app, you know, on your phone? And then you say, hey, I think it's over there. Let me show you. After you do that enough, again, the whole give a man a fish, he eats for a day, teach him to fish, he eats for a lifetime, you're going to be able to then do the same thing with your team. So it does have to start early. That's why I think for the biggest part, why we're doing the group. And also because people who work a lot or busy or who have really young kids are missing a lot of vital information in the chats. And it's really hard. You're just noisy. It's really hard. It's really hard for them to go back and find the information that they're missing. Jamie, that's totally okay. I have a tutorial on Trello that I can send to you to show you how to use it and how to access it. It can be confusing, especially the first time you use it. You're like, but it's easier for people to go in the group and check in on the things that they may have missed, information, promos, things like that. Because I'm sure, well, here's the thing is the group won't be weighed down by lots and lots of idle conversation that makes all of the important stuff get lost. Yes, do that. And then in our meeting Friday, oh, perfect. Sorry, that was Casey to Jamie, I think. So I was like reading it out loud. And so it's easier. I really don't want our people who can't be attached to their phone as often as some of us to get frustrated and feel like this isn't for them because they just can't be near their phone all the time. And they're missing lots and lots of information that we're sharing. So the group cuts down on a lot of the idle conversation. It makes it more easy for people to find stuff. And they feel more in the loop. And it's easy for you guys to search things. So I know we can search in the chats, but it's kind of difficult. If you go to the group and you type Control F, or you go to the search feature, you can type in keywords. So if you're like, how much caffeine does it activate? You can literally type how much caffeine does it activate, and it will pick up those keywords and it will find the resource that's in there and you can have your answer. So it's just a lot easier for people than the chat is. Send me the same thing. I'm confused on Trello. Yeah, I also think in the Facebook group, the tutorial is there. I think the tutorial is there on the Facebook, on the guide. Yeah, Toby, I can understand. Like, it's hard because people have lots of conversations throughout the day and they ask questions. And when one person asks questions, you have 20 people who answer, and then everything gets lost. So the group will be a lot easier. However, I do want to acknowledge, I understand it'll be a transition. It will be hard. People will struggle with feeling disconnected at first because we're so used to having each other at our fingertips with conversation. I understand it'll be an adjustment, but we'll find our groove. Just know that nobody's like checking out. Nobody's like, I think the biggest thing for me will just be, I have to rely on you guys to pass the word along to your teams that we are deleting Thrive Army and moving to the group. Make sure your people are in the group and make sure they know I'm not deleting them out of the Thrive Army because I'm firing them. It's just because I have to get rid of the chat somehow. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I think the only thing that is sad to me is the blending of teams. Yeah. So one of the things that we're going to do in the group, Casey, is we're still going to have a space where everybody can come together and still have conversation. So every single day, I'm going to have a post where we just kind of have conversation with one another. We engage and things like that. Also, maybe this will encourage a lot of people to get on some of the other more conversational type Zooms that we have. Like the work with me's, we have evening work with me's and morning work with me's. And those ones are pretty conversational as well. So there's that. Like I said, I'm going to be using the group a little bit differently than a lot of 200Ks use their group. It's not just going to be me posting shit and like expecting you guys to, I'm not just going to use like a billboard. It's going to be very interactive, very engaging, a lot more conversational, things like that. So we will still be able to have those conversations, but I'm also hoping too, that when we get on Zooms like this, we engage with one another and it's more conversational. It's not necessarily always like us talking at you guys. Whitney, sorry, I'm reading your conversation. So. Right. Yeah. And also too, I think that like, one of the really silly things is if people who were constantly in the chat, when people leave the chat, they're like, what happened? Oh my God, what did we do? Are they mad? So there won't be any of that with the group. So I think it'll take away some of that. I don't want to call it drama, but I guess for lack of better terms, I even do that. I'm not going to lie. When I see so-and-so is off the chat, I'm like, I'm like, oh gosh. And also too, so my last words are, I really feel like the group too will take away a lot of that comparison game. I feel like the chat and how present we are in the chat can make people compare their availability to others and somehow make it more valuable. We notice when people aren't in the chats as much, when they're not contributing to the chats as much, when they're not using it, and then we're just kind of like, oh my God, they're just not even contributing. They're not doing it because they're not in the chats. What's that got to do with anything? Right. And so I think we tend to put like too much value on how often we use the chats and how available we are in the chats. And I think, again, this will just take that all away. Let you run your business how you want to, be as present for your business as you want to, and like no one's looking kind of thing, right? Whereas when we were in the chats, it was like having cameras in your house, like Big Brother. People could see like how often were you really working, how often weren't you, And now it's just like live your life, work your business however you want to, use the resources, lean into the team. How can we be here? So yeah, really excited for kind of this transitional period. It is a transition, so it won't always be comfortable. I understand that. But I'm excited for it. I am excited for all the things that we're doing. Does anybody have anything to say? You can please feel free to unmute yourself. You don't have to raise a hand or type it in. If anyone's got any questions or things to say, I want to make sure you can unmute and sorry, I'm catching up on the chat. Okay, sorry. All right, well, if no one's got anything, I can let you guys go. I want to honor your time since we talk about doing that a lot. I love you guys as always. Thank you so much for making time to get on. It always does mean a lot to me that you guys take time out of your evenings to do this. So I will catch you guys tomorrow. We have obviously more Zooms tomorrow. We have social media tips from the top. Don't forget to get on those. I love you guys, and I'll catch you later.